Well, welcome back to the Heart of the Bear Factory. This is Positive Impact, a show that talks about making plushies with a purpose. My name is Rob Johnson, and joining me, as always, in the Bear Factory is Jimmy Banish. He's the Chief Operating Officer for the Bear Factory. Jimmy, welcome back.
Good morning, good morning.
We say welcome back, but we're in your place.
Yeah.
I'm a visitor. You're welcome back to where you work.
Happy to be here.
And we have a new person joining us, Mike Anderson. He's the VP of Business Development for the Bear Factory. Mike, welcome in.
Thank you.
And today we're talking about where to get started with the Bear Factory. So when someone's considering bringing in the Bear Factory to their retail space or just to their business overall, what does that first conversation typically look like?
Yeah, this is the all too common question that we get on a day-to-day basis with, new existing businesses reaching out, as well as people who are interested in getting into the space in the industry. And it's like the simplest question of how do I get started? And I think the fundamental question really boils down to there's so many industries that we touch on and are involved with, is trying to talk through and understand, is it, do you have an existing retail space? Are you interested in doing a mobile operation? Do you do fundraising? Are you in publishing looking to bring some sort of IP to life? And, there's a million different questions like that you kind of start with. And I thought it'd be really beneficial to just sit down and kind of talk through this on the podcast, because this is, the everyday conversation that Mike gets from people. And once we start to diagnose a little bit as to how are you looking to deploy stuff-a-plush experience, the next question comes into play. That's that kind of crossroad of, is it a hand stuffing experience that you're looking for? Or is it going to be a machine stuffing experience, an environment that you're trying to create? And that is kind of where that linchpin, where I think a lot of people get hung up. And the reality of that question is, when I would spend a lot of time talking with customers on, looking at machines and trying to answer that question, 50% of the time I would talk people out of buying a machine, because they're just not, it's an investment. Like, we have equipment that ranges anywhere from, $5,000-$6,000 up to $12,000 for certain bundles, and that's a pretty significant investment. And the last thing that we want is for someone to make that plunge and then come back to us 12 months and say, like, what did I do? Like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And I fortunately can say I've really only had that conversation one time, and that was like 8 years ago, from someone who's really ambitious, and I kind of let them, run with it. I had full confidence, and then, unfortunately, they just weren't able to pull it off. And after having that conversation with them months later, I made kind of that promise to myself, and it's something that we've talked about a lot internally, is like, we are fully about breathing into that small spark of entrepreneurism that a lot of people have, and are fully on board with supporting, who that person is and what they want to do, and helping cultivate and bring their, dreams to life as like a supplier. But at the end of the day, like, we're a supplier, we're not a business consulting firm. So we can be here to support you and talk through like industry knowledge we have, and talk through the product we have and the availability and everything that like a manufacturer and supplier can do. What we can't and we don't like to do is, what accounting software do I need to use, or what social media do I need to be on? Like, I have my own opinions. Like, my background's digital marketing in a past life before I came over to Bear Factory, and so I have my opinions on that. But that's not my space. Our space is, I always tell people, being a humble teddy bear maker who gets to deal with the headaches of global logistics. So going back to that original question, like, is it hand stuffing or is it machines? I would talk 50% of people out of buying a machine, because I would tell them, you can get started with hand stuffing, see how that goes for 6 or so months, and then if you start to see some success, move over to a machine.
Yeah.
And I'll probably let you jump in a little bit, Mike, too, because you deal with this all the time as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of the first conversation I have with people, is like, hey, for us, a friendship is more important than a transaction, right? So I asked the question of, what's your space look like? they say a lot of people come with the budgets right away, and I never try to oversell. I'm always, like Jimmy said, let's start with hand stuffing, unless you have, your aggregate space and you have 10 by 10 space and you want to, go for the gusto, and you have that volume of clientele that are already there. Like, you're not reaching out for the clientele like a mobile festival goer, or you're going to sign up for birthday parties. So you're just getting started, and then you still have a ton of work to do on your end to advertise yourself and get out there, and hopefully you get in that festival, hopefully you get in that trade show, whatever you're trying to do. But maybe just start with the hand stuffing first, and then build your way up again, like Jimmy said, to a smaller machine, or the gusto, the vortex storm. And so I just talk them through that aspect of where you're at, what you're trying to do, what's your space look like, and then we start from there. And then I just go through the whole steps of, where I think you should be. And some people are like, oh no, I just want to go, all in. I'm like, well, let's talk about this again. It is a big investment, and hand stuffing, it's a lot more work, but you can start small with like birthday parties, or smaller corporate events where you have that whole time frame of, I have 30 minutes. I can do the birth certificate. I can do the, go pick out your plushie, go pick out your outfit, whatever, however you get involved into it, and then move up from there. And then if they see an influx of, okay, it's a lot of word of mouth, that when people get out there, there's a lot of word of mouth that, yeah, here we are, they have a stuff-a-plush experience, and then they get into all these other avenues, and then they might need the machine. But again, it all depends on, you know, how your space is set up, and or your foot traffic. And that's the biggest question I ask, to get started with them.
And then when people start, so when they call you and they start the conversation, what percentage of them are ready to get started, fairly quickly?
Well, they have to fill out a wholesale application first, and then so I feed through those, and I'll look at the information, then I'll call each of them, and then everybody wants to get started, right? But some people are just looking for the pricing, just to see, putting pen to paper to see what makes sense for them. And then again, then we had that conversation again of, let me walk you through all the steps and all the avenues we have for you, and then we'll make a decision together. And then some are like, well, I don't want to do hand stuffing because the machine is what drives the kids in, which it does. I mean, it's a spinning, looks like cotton candy, so it's eye candy for the kids, and it does drive people to you. But again, not everybody's ready for the equipment.
Right. And that doesn't always necessarily translate to a sale, just an optic. It's also the service, the experience, the people that are manning it, right? It's not just, one particular thing. So when you look at all the possibilities somebody could have to enter into a relationship with the Bear Factory, what do those look like at a high level?
Three key mark things that come up in conversation for hand stuffing. And the first one is, what is that, what are you trying to accomplish right now with a make a plush experience? And a lot of times the people who lean into hand stuffing is, it's maybe a captive group that's coming in, and they have the time to sit down and you know actually hand build, and it's not like a volume traffic moving based kind of setup. Like, you have a birthday party or a corporate event, or just like a set group of 30 kids that are coming in, like a field trip or something like that. And what's I love about hand stuffing is, we've had schools come in here and take tours, and we walk them through, and they'll all just sit around our big conference table, and I'll just take a big box of fiber and just dump it in the middle of the table, and just be like, all right, let's get started, let's have fun. And kids start grabbing it, and they're hand stuffing, and you're going around and kind of helping them with it and just talking through, and the kids start talking to each other. And this can be as young as 6 years old, and you can go all the way up to college and university students, who, like, with student activities groups, where it's a great orientation opportunity for kids to just, who are new on campus, sit down and just start making a bear and start talking about where they're from and why they're there and what they're studying and everything. So it's a great conversation starter. And then it's also a great team building activity too, where we get a lot of corporate companies who want to do some sort of something through their nonprofit where they bring in like all their C-suite or like all their managers or executives, and they'll sit down and they'll hand stuff a bunch of plush, and then they'll take it to like a hospital or some sort of donation based event where first you kind of have that internal collaboration of building those animals by hand and just talking and catching up, and you see them 1 or 2 times a year, like some of these people if they're traveling from all over, and then you guys get to go on site and give these to like kids in need or whatever the environment is. So it's just, I see that a lot, and that's super cool.
We just did that with the Ronald McDonald House
Yeah.
with the Michigan State football team, where we donated the Honey the Lad, the Zeke, and they all hand stuffed it. There was the volleyball team, the football team, part of the basketball team, and they went into the Ronald McDonald House, actually the Children's Hospital, and then the kids that could come down did it. They we donated some recording devices as well, so each individual person would make a touchdown or whatever, get well soon, and then once they were all stuffed, there was like 120 of them. A handful of us went through the Children's Hospital and handed them out to the kids, and that was very heartfelt. I mean, I was part of that, and there's kids that you couldn't open the door, but one of the football players was playing tic-tac-toe with them on the window, both sides. So it was very touching, and we've done that the last 2 years with them. So that's kind of one of our partnerships that I like to get involved in.
We talk about being like the Bear Factory, the conscious plush company. Like, well, what does that mean? And it means being very intentional with things that you do. And hand stuffing is that purest form of being intentional because of the time and care that goes into hand making a plushie. I love hand stuffing for like those reasons. And so that was like the first hallmark sign. The second one I would say really comes down to like space as well. Like, what does your space look like when it comes to deploying a make a plush setup? That the available space, if it's temporary versus permanent, can really drive if you have if you have to do hand stuffing versus having dedicated equipment on site. And then the third is going to be startup cost. That we have $100 minimum per order at a wholesale level for our customers. Like the startup cost to get started with a hand stuffing program is next to nothing. And versus equipment, now you have overhead that you have that responsibility to make money to pay for that. And the last thing that we want would be you to be stressed out that you pulled out a business loan and now you need to produce, where if you start to get stressed out when this is supposed to be fun and engaging and you're excited about it, that can really take away from the experience. And the successful customers of ours they're very passionate and thoroughly enjoy what they do. And if it becomes to start to feel like a real job when you're on site doing an event, that's where you start to have problems.
Yeah, because imagine you can see it at that point because it's,
You turn into a mill at that
Right.
point. You know what I mean? It becomes less about the experience and more about how many units can you move.
Yeah, it's all about volume, almost nothing about experience. So there's hand stuffing, there's the machine, and then there's the mobile trailer as well, right? So how does somebody enter into that space?
You have to be pretty experienced. For one, you have to be able to pull a trailer and back it up, right? And you have to have the knowledge of doing that, or someone that can do that.
So instantly, 94% of the population is eliminated.
Exactly. Like, we're going to have a tester in our back parking lot if you can do this or not before we even talk about it. Yeah, it's an awesome trailer. It's a one-stop shop. It comes fully loaded with the plush and the clothing, the machine. Our last one we just built is we really took our time and designed every nook and cranny for the space. So you have space underneath. You have tie downs, like things that as we go through the roll to one event to the next, and we don't do too many of them that we like, oh, we should have done this, we should have done this. So this last one we really thought a lot of about everything, and we really nailed it, I think. But yeah, you have to be an experienced you're a very, very go-getter. It's not going to make money sitting in your driveway by any means. So it takes someone probably in the industry or entrepreneur or someone that's already have, um, you know, either a place to put it that the foot traffic's there, that they don't want to, build another barn or another shed to put our supplies in, and they just roll that up and you can roll it anywhere, or someone that really just wants to, they're retired and want something to do, or they're, starting off but you have to really be a go-getter to do this because it's not easy. You can't just say, hey, I have a trailer, get me in your festival, or I'm going to come to your corporate office and I'm going to, help you out with your corporate family picnic or whatever. It's like you have to know people to get into these events. I mean, it takes a lot to get your foot in the door in some of these places. So, but for someone that really wants to do it and is, again, I keep on saying go-getter, but like it's a one-stop shop, and it's a very lucrative business that you can, do very well at if you're, pound the pavement.
Yeah, I think like the three main really success stories with mobile trailers is outdoor hospitality. So you have like a property and you want just like a turnkey store that can be moved around. So you can have it on site in season, and then you can even take it off site out of season, just so that's not sitting there doing nothing. We see it really successful in fundraising businesses who are already probably used to taking like blow ups and things like that for like elementary school fundraising. And then the party rental companies as well, who have like arcades that you can rent, like that they bring on site, or giant, bounce house blow ups, or just kind of like they bring that experiential setup event base to you. A trailer is great in those scenarios too, because you can include that and you're just driving it, opening up the doors. It has battery packs on it. You don't need to have a loud generator. Just turn it on and you're good to go. So those are like the three main areas that I see the trailers being really successful in. But like Mike said, like if you're in that, you probably already know how to like move heavy equipment and things like that. So that's where that trailer would be super successful in those settings.
So looking back on your guys' experience with onboarding, wholesalers into the Bear Factory, what's the biggest piece of advice you'd give somebody if they were considering getting started?
I would say like really looking at your commitment, like what's your actual time commitment that you can put towards this? Like, do you have an established business with an established retail program that this is just getting jacked into that existing retail strategy to support what you're already doing or refreshing what you're already doing? Versus if I call them like the weekend warriors who are, wanting to go and do parties and stuff like that. I mean, I'll be fully honest, like if you have a machine and you're just focused on doing birthday parties, you're gonna get burnt out very quickly. Like selling kits of 15 to 20 animals and lugging this thing around, moving it in and out of your car, like that becomes cumbersome and old quick. So that's not to say that can fill in the gaps of what you're doing. You really want to make sure if you are going to be more mobile that you kind of have like big events set up in place that you would want to attend, or you have like an existing customer base that this could be integrated into, whether you're like in an event-based company or something like that. So those are my two main things, is like your time commitment, and then just from like from an investment standpoint, what really actually is realistic for you and makes sense.
I mean, you nailed it on the head for sure on that, but it's like I always ask, are you in it to win it? Like what's your purpose for this?
Yeah.
You have to be entrepreneurially spirited, and you have to be a go-getter, and you have to, again, unless you're part of, bringing it in part of your existing business, it's not going to make money just sitting there. You're not just going to say, hey, I have a machine or I have a hand stuffing and here I am. You have to go out there and get the business. And if it's a side gig, great. If it's your full-time job and you really want to make a career at this, I mean, you have to put both feet in and go. We're here to help. We're always supportive and customer service, and we try to give leads out, to depending on where they're at. So, that's our job as well, to not manage their business, but help them as much as we can.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I always ask people when I'm talking them through a process, and what does success look like? If we're sitting here in a year and you've done X, what is X, and is that successful?
Right.
And giving them a vision for it. I remember very early on in my career, I had asked somebody about this project they were going to be doing. And I said, why do you want to do this? And they said, well, my friend's doing it.
Right.
And I'm like, ugh, that's not a good reason to do something, that just because you want to copy or emulate what somebody else is doing, because there's no passion, there's no drive. To your point, Jimmy, you're getting burned out very quickly, especially if you don't have like a full vision of how this integrates into your business.
Whatever you're doing, you want to make sure you're not like trading your crappy 9 to 5 job for a weekend thing that now you have thousands of dollars sunken into it, and now all of a sudden it becomes a crappy weekend thing. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're passionate about it, you enjoy it. And just like any business, people think this is get rich quick plush profits, and it's like so far from the truth. The success comes from well orchestrating and being calculated and strategic and hardworking. And you can definitely be successful at this, but nothing is given, just like anything else in life. And anyone who sees this going on, a lot of times people are like, I want to get into it because I was on vacation and I saw this going on, and all I saw was dollar bills being stuffed into plushies.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's cool. Like, we're happy to talk through the numbers and stuff like that, but what you don't see is everything that took place behind the scenes for that particular company to get to that point.
Yeah.
Where all you saw was dollars getting stuffed into plushies. There's so much more that goes into just like that. Like, that's the fun part of the job. It's everything else. That's the tip of the iceberg. It's everything else that isn't the fun part of the job that you need to make sure you have the skin and the the backbone to handle that weight.
And they're at a resort on vacation, and
Yeah.
all the foot traffic is already there for you.
Yeah.
Your clientele's
They saw
right in
the
front of you.
finished product.
Exactly.
In the
Yeah.
best case of situations.
Right.
What they didn't see was the incredible grind to get to that point, to get everything set up.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So we always look at and highlight a particular plushie. So I'm going to hand this one to you.
Yeah.
And tell me about it. I've never seen anything like that in the Bear Factory.
Yeah, so this is Spookly the Square Pumpkin, which is a really exciting collaboration and partnership that we're doing with Evergreen Creations, and they manage the IP for Spookly. But what's great about Spookly is it's super popular with the like agritourism space. But the whole story behind Spookly is, obviously he's not like a traditional oval or spherical pumpkin. He's square, and there's a really great book that goes along with this, and just really encourages kids that being special is okay and being unique is okay, and you don't need to blend in with the rest of the crowd. So I was able to meet Aaron, who manages this IP, and super great guy. He's the his father-in-law is the one who created Spookly, so kind of like a similar, like, in the family, second generation kind of thing. Him and I have a lot in common, just being like son-in-laws with this type of thing. But we're really excited about Spookly just because it's like a really great story that really aligns like with our values, and kind of what we want to accomplish when it comes to being thoughtful with the products that we introduce. So like the whole Stuff-a-Spookly program, we're going to be kicking off, should be available like end of August, early September. We're already taking like a bunch of back orders for it, but this is kind of like the official, this month we're doing like the official release to like everybody, and this will be available to all of our customer base. I really just think Spookly's cute, he's unique, and we're starting to get into more of these like collaborations and partnerships, and this is one of those first ones that we're really kicking off that we're really excited about and appreciative to be able to offer.
Yeah, it's great. Very unique. Very, like I said, I've never seen anything quite like that in the Bear Factory. It's cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Positive Impact. We certainly appreciate you watching. If you want to learn more about the Bear Factory, all of the information is in the show notes. Apart from that, we'll catch you next time with a new episode. Take care.